Arsenal smashed West Ham 6-0. It's a huge win in the Premier League title race. For how many months have I been saying that, yes, Arsenal are always going to have the technical ability to go toe-to-toe with Man City, with Liverpool. They've beaten both of those sides in the league this season. But it's those kind of games where it can be a little bit too emotional, where Arsenal haven't shown enough composure, enough ruthlessness. And I think the West Ham performances earlier in the season allude to that, where I don't think I've been confident in Arsenal being able to win the Premier League title or mount a big challenge, really. I haven't thought that, especially how they fell off at the end of December. But this 6-0 win, it's 6-0 away from home. It could have been 10, could have been 12. I mean, these are strange numbers to be talking about in a football game. And obviously West Ham were absolutely shocking. Don't get me wrong, they were absolutely abysmal. But it's still West Ham side that was 90% fully fit. You know, they had a lot of their, you know, they had the Bowens of the world playing, Aguero playing, Alvarez is playing. They were all playing, most of them. So it wasn't like a completely stripped back West Ham side. Arsenal have gone to the Olympic Stadium and forced thousands of West Ham fans to get on the central line early, or the Jubilee line. Which one is it? But forced them very, very early to leave the stadium. That's how bad it was. 6-0 away from home for Arsenal is huge. At this point in the season, I think you can imagine Arsenal winning these kind of games 6-0 early in the season. They did at the start of last season. They looked emphatic, they looked free-flowing, and then they kind of choked a little bit. They looked a little bit, I'd say a little bit rusty, a little bit tight, not as loose and free-flowing as they could be in these kind of points in the season. And now we're seeing 6-0 win. We're almost like middle of February, with only a few months left of the season, only 12 to 15 games left, and Arsenal got, you know, big juicy games in the Champions League as well. I think it's a massive, massive statement, this win. We're going to talk about all the goals, and obviously make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let me know what you think about the result. Obviously, it puts on a mathematical level Arsenal neck and neck with Man City, obviously just behind on goal difference, only a couple of points behind Liverpool, who they've just beaten. So this Premier League title race is wide open. And then we're looking at a side that look absolutely free-flowing. Let's talk about the first goal for Arsenal. In the first 10 minutes, I've not seen a one-sided performance as dominant as that in a long time. Especially, again, the away from home factor is huge for me, because I think the Olympic Park, you know, West Ham's new stadium, is a decent place to go. I think West Ham have been decent at building it up into a bit of a fortress compared to how it started. And it's not an easy place to go, is what I'm trying to say. And in the first 10, 15 minutes, it was 90% possession for Arsenal, it felt like. I know it certainly was that in 10-minute intervals throughout that first 30 minutes of the game. They control, they could put a stranglehold on West Ham in a whole different way. And then William Saliba scores, you know, a little bit of a scrappy goal, whatever, but it's still, you know, a ball gets whipped in, and it's those centre-backs for Arsenal that are scoring big goals. Gabriel obviously scored today, but Gabriel's been scoring goals. Saliba been scoring goals. You know, if you look at a side that's capable of winning the Premier League title, you know, the Rio Ferdinands, the John Terrys of the world, they always pick goals up. The side that wins the league always has their defender picking up big goals. And you know, Company's done it at City. Tony Adams did it for Arsenal in the 90s. We've seen it time and time again. And the fact that Arsenal got their centre-backs scoring a decent number of goals, four centre-backs, alludes to the fact that this Arsenal side are in full song. They really, really are. And then for me, it's the moment of the season, maybe, for Arsenal so far, because I know it's a bit dramatic. I know there are bigger games than West Ham, with all due respect, but this is a moment where if West Ham get in the game 1-1, Jared Bowen had a chance, it's different. Arsenal have to make it 2-0 and kill the game. At 2-0, the game's over. We all know it. And obviously, 41 minutes in, Bukayo Saka gets a penalty. It's some poor keeping from Areola to give the penalty away, and the West Ham back line were completely exposed. But this is a moment where if he misses that penalty, then Arsenal are in a world of pain. They're really, really struggling, aren't they? You have to look at it and think he's corrected the mistake from last year. It was April last year. I thought it was February. It was almost February last year where he missed the penalty. It was obviously a lot later in the season. It was April, I think, last year. 2-2 draw. And to win the game quite late on, I think it was, Bukayo Saka missed a penalty in that black away kit, and Arsenal looked like the business going into that game. And they've been tinkering on the edge of dropping points. I think it was to Liverpool and I think it was to Villa as well. And they kind of claw their way back into a few results. But the West Ham one felt like a real dent when he missed that penalty. So he steps up against West Ham and he scores it. And it was a good penalty as well. So that says to me that whatever you say about Mikel Arteta, he is able to induce change in players mid-season. He's able to create belief where there wasn't any at the back end of last season when they blew a 247-day lead at the top of the table. I think this 6-0 win was like, we know exactly, in our minds, we can remember exactly what happened last season. We want to correct it. We want to go over and above correcting it. We want to get a 6-0 win off the back of a 2-2 draw in the previous season and losses to West Ham already this season and obviously in the Cup as well. So, and they've done it. And it is a really, really big goal for Bukayo Saka, who obviously scored another goal as well, was absolutely superb today. And he's slowly purring into the end of the season where, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd want him to be rested maybe in the second Porto game, for example, in earlier parts of Premier League games. Because if Bukayo Saka can stay fit and sharp, it's not just about fitness. His fitness is supreme. But fitness and sharpness is important for Mikel Arteta. Look at the comparisons of Phil Foden, how many minutes he's playing within games. He played a similar amount of games to Saka in the last few years, but he gets rested a lot quicker, a lot easier. So Saka is a huge aspect to Arsenal going into the remainder of the season. Obviously, Gabriel scores. Obviously, Trossard scores as well. And he's been good, Trossard. A big fan of him. Dynamic forward. He needs a few to score. He still needs a few chances. He missed a couple of headers in the first half. He could have had a hat-trick today, really. That's how poor West Ham's defence was. But he still picks up goals. He still picks up big moments. But Declan Rice makes it 6, I think it was. I think that was the 6th goal. It was a beautiful finish, and he didn't celebrate. And I'm glad that not too many West Ham fans booed him, because sometimes you have to... I think if Declan Rice leaves Arsenal to join Spurs, you could boo him. But I think when you leave West Ham to join Arsenal, you are just saying, I want to play at a bigger level. And for him to score that kind of caliber goal at West Ham, I think a lot of West Ham fans will sit there and maybe boo him ironically, as opposed to actually meaning it, because it was a beautiful finish, and he really ran the game. He absolutely controlled things. He was pointing at people where to pass the ball. He was conducting possession for Arsenal today in a very, very controlled manner. And they were absolutely superb, Arsenal. There's no doubt about that. 6-0 away from home. They put themselves in a huge position in the Premier League title race, and their running isn't too bad. I think they've got to build themselves up to be in a winning streak going into that Man City game. They have to believe they can beat Man City, or at least draw the game, and hope that City drop points in the crunch games when the Champions League semi-finals come around, or quarter-finals, and hope something can happen to the Rodris and the De Bruynes of the world. And that's not nice. You never want to prey on anyone's illnesses or fitness, to lose a Premier League title. But they'll be praying for extraordinary events, or even fatigue. I mean, if City go far and City are still chasing a treble, that will catch up with you. I don't care what anyone says. Even the Club World Cup, there's a lot of minutes involved in that as well. There will be a lot of fatigue in that City side in the back end of this season. And how that manifests, we don't know. But Mikel Arteta has to put Arsenal in a position where they can capitalise on mistakes from Liverpool as well, who are also chasing 4 trophies. That's a lot of football. Arsenal don't have an FA Cup game. They don't have League Cup football. And they've got Porto in the Champions League. So it's a huge result for Arsenal. 6-0 puts them in a very, very strong, a strong commanding position to win football matches and ultimately win the league title. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you very, very soon.